Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have just a powerhouse show coming right up. Our special guest today has been on the show many times before, Melissa-Alvarez, and she's here to talk to us about her new book, Llewellyn's Little Book of Spirit Animals. Many of you know Melissa. She's a best-selling, award-winning author who has written many books and nearly 500 articles on self-help, spirituality, and wellness. She's a professional intuitive coach, energy worker, spiritual advisor, medium, and animal communicator with over 25 years of experience. So let's welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thank you for having me on, Marianne. It's so much fun to be here with you again.
Oh, we always have way too much fun, especially when we're talking about animals and spirit animals and totems, you name it. You know, you're the person to go for all this. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, and so, gosh, I mean, this is like your, what number book is this? Is this number 15 or where are we at with the number?
I don't know. Okay, this is my fifth book out with Llewellyn. I've got another one after this, and I'm writing the last one that I have under contract with them. So by the time I finish with this last one, I'll have 7 out with them. But I have other books that, I also have done on my own, too. So, but I'll have 7 with Llewellyn by the time the last one comes out.
Yeah, because I know over time because I'm part of your community, so I've been to your website and seen all the other great books that you have, and it's an ongoing shelf.
Yeah, I kind of when I pitched a bunch of ideas at one time, and I had no idea that they were going to buy them all, and so it was like a whole bunch of books got sold at once. So for the last about year and a half now, I have just been on my computer writing. So we're coming to the end of that. So then I have to start rethinking, what do I want to pitch next? What kind of book do I want to see if they're interested in after this? So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, we've been having fun. I mean, last time we talked about Receive and Believe. And Believe and Receive, excuse me.
Believe and Receive. It's okay.
Yeah, had a little backwards there. And we've talked also about, because you do a lot with law of attraction and animals. And so today I'm so excited we get to talk about this new book, Llewellyn's Little Book of Spirit Animals. And so how did this is it something you've been working on for quite some time? Or is it something, I know you said you've had a contract with them for some while because they just love your work. So
well, thank you.
How did this come about?
They actually asked me if I would write this book. And this book is a super condensed version of animal frequency. So if you,
by the way.
Thank you. So the little book, you only have so much space in books. And there's so many animals in the world that, you really have to pick and choose. So I tried to pick and choose animals that I thought would be most beneficial to people, animals that are, popular, but even with popular animals, unfortunately, I couldn't include every single one. So the little book, you've got 1 page per animal that gives you a basic idea about the animal and the messages that it could try to give to you. Whereas in animal frequency, I've got 2 pages per animal. It's more in depth. But that's a humongous book, too. The little book, you can stick in your pocket and take it with you wherever. Stick it in your purse, have it in your car. I just love the way that this book turned out. It's a hardcover, whereas Animal Frequency is a soft cover. But Animal Frequency is like a big book in dimensions, and it's probably, I forget the page count right off the top of my head, but it's over like 400 and something. It's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge resource. Well, and you talk about how small the little book of spirit animals is, and it really is. It's something you could throw in your backpack or purse or what have you. Mm-hmm. And I actually had it on me the other day when I was walking and saw a bobcat. So I was like,
oh, that's
I wonder
cool.
what this means. And so
did you look it up?
Oh, yeah, it's with links, So that was kind of fun. I'm
right.
Like, found you, a little critter,
Right. Yeah, and that's something that you have to do sometimes. So you saw a bobcat, and even though it may not, I forget if it says specifically bobcat in here, but a lynx is in the same family. So if there is a book, listen to me, I'm holding the thing going book. But if there is an animal and that specific animal isn't in the book, you can try to find something that's, within the same family or close to try to see what the message might be. Because, like I said, there's just so many animals. It would be great. You wouldn't be able to even carry a book like that if we included everything. So
yeah, it'd be a huge
I don't think I can write that.
You would be a busy writer for sure.
I would.
So we talked about Animal Frequency, which is the bigger book, and then we've got Llewellyn's little book of spirit animals. And so you talked a little bit about the difference between the two, one being that you can kind of carry it with you everywhere, and the other one's more of kind of a more in-depth resource for when you're looking. It's
more like a reference book.
Yeah. Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit of like the process of Animal Frequency, because that's more than just what the title of your book is, right?
Right, it is. To me, Animal Frequency is a process. And I also explained this too in the little book, so that, I try to make the little book a standalone book too, but it is a companion also to Animal Frequency. So to me, what Animal Frequency is being able to connect to the energy of animals, but to go beyond just what animal communication is. To me, Animal Frequency is when you're asking, okay, so let me back up a minute. When you're doing an animal communication session, you're talking to the animal through pictures, you're sending images back and forth to the animal. You'll pick up images from them in order to communicate with them. So, for example, when I'm training my horses, I will send them pictures of what I'm asking them to do and trying to show them pictures of what they'll learn if they do that at the same time. So it helps them to understand what you're trying to get through to them. With Animal Frequency, it's asking that animal to connect with you on the level of the divine. And the way I do it is I send my energy out to the animal, and I kind of go like halfway with it. So I wait for the animal to give me their energy back. And if they want to participate, then they will they'll push their energy towards you. And then when the two combined, it's almost just like a big jump in frequency, and you're feeling the energy of the animal, and you'll see impressions, and it's more of a deeper connection than just an animal communication session. And then when the session is over, you wait until the animal pulls their energy back first, and then you pull your energy back. A lot of times it helps, when animals are sick or if they're not understanding something, and it has to be something that comes from the animal too. You can request it. You can request for them to share their energy, but they may not. And there's times when, they may block you from knowing things about them simply because they don't want you to know, or the time isn't right or whatever. So it's very in-depth, and it's very spiritual, and it is a connection to the divine. And I've always been able to do that with my animals, but then I realized other people didn't do the same kind of thing I was doing. So I wanted to explain how you could have a deeper connection and a deeper understanding with animals. Also, animal totems, which I call energy animals, those are animals that come to you with messages from the divine. So a lot of people may not recognize when they show up, and by using Animal Frequency, you can connect to them on a deeper level, receive the messages easier, and it also makes you more aware when an animal does show up, if it's there with a message for you or if it's just a bird flying by. So it's just, I don't know, it's just something I've always been able to do, and I wanted to share it with everybody else.
Well, I'm so glad that you have. And so to kind of so let's say I'm on a walk, because I do a lot of walking around where I live, and there's trails and stuff like that. It's always kind of funny. Sometimes I see coyotes, and sometimes I've seen the little bobcat go by, and crows and hawks and what have you. And so how do we discern which one is giving us a message and which one's just doing a flyby?
When they look like they're staring a hole through you. So, because, it's really easy to think, oh, well, this one has a message, that has a message. But really, it's almost like you feel the difference. Like you feel like they're staring you down, or you become aware on a soul level that something is not exactly the same as it was 2 seconds ago. And what is it? You ever get the feeling when somebody's watching you and you look around, it's like, who's looking at me? Well, it's the same kind of thing, and typically it's an animal because they want to get your attention when they have a message. For example, I have dragonflies come around me all the time. So, and this is actually an exercise that you can find in both books, and it's a visualization exercise. So I was in the barn, and I was cleaning up and everything, and this dragonfly just perched on me, and I'm like, okay, and then he flew away, and then a few minutes later, he's back on the another one is like on the end of the rake, and so I just stopped, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, okay, so what's up? Nothing. I wasn't getting any information. And then he flew away, and then I had to go pick up my kid at school, and I felt like I was being watched, and I looked over expecting the person in the car beside me to be looking at me, and it wasn't. It was a tiny little dragonfly sitting on the window staring at me, and I'm like, hey, baby. And then I'm like, okay, I really got to figure out what dragonfly means. And then I just got the feeling to be true to myself. And I'm like, okay. And so the little baby one is the one who had the message, but it took me 3 to be able to say, okay, this is something I need to pay attention to. So that's another thing that you'll notice is the same animal who has the message will appear in different places. So like I saw 3 dragonflies that day. You might see it on TV, you might see a cougar on TV, and then you might not see one in real life, but then you might see an ad on the side of the road that's got a cougar, or, it's just that animal starts popping up in a variety of places, enough for you to go, wait a minute, why do I keep seeing this? And once you realize that you keep seeing it, then that's a message to you to pay attention to what this animal's trying to say to you.
Yeah, and then you can get that message. And it's interesting when you really pay attention how accurate those messages are, and timely.
True. Yeah, because it's usually when you're going through something, like if you're trying to make a decision, or if you're, in a situation that you might not be comfortable in and you don't know which way to go. Should I do this or should I do that? Which is kind of like making a decision too, but it gives you more of a reference. So, like if it's a hawk, so the other day a hawk appeared to me. Hawks always come around here, and I've been hearing them like cry at night. I don't know if it's mating season for hawks or what's the deal, but these hawks have been around the barn and everything lately. And a hawk means to pay attention to things that you're trying to go after, like prey. And it's also to pay attention that you don't become prey. So pay attention to what's happening around you. So since I saw them, I tried to be more aware. But that the hawk, it came and it sat after the hurricane, our tree here had to be cut back a lot. So we have the poor branches look like stumps. And so it's sitting up there and just looking down, and it would squawk or make a noise, every few minutes. And then it flew away. And then within a minute and a half, here it comes again across the top of the barn, but it had a second one with him. So to me, that said, okay, pay attention, and you've got to double your efforts because it was 2. Double your efforts to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a position where you can become prey, and that you're doing what you can to, be more aware. You know what I mean? So, because hawks have to be aware because they hunt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, and so this kind of brings me to my next question. Because you write about energy and you write about frequency. What drew you specifically to the energy of animals?
Because they've been a part of my life since I was big enough to know what they were. And I've always felt connected to them, and I've always been able to understand them, and my kids are funny because they're like, they don't want me to get around new animals. They're like, no, because it's going to fall in love with you and it's not going to like us. And I'm like, that's not true. But I just have an ability to connect with them on like a spiritual level, and it's through the animal frequency, just because I understand them and I try to feel how they're feeling. I'm very empathic, and so I want to know, how can I help you? How, I just have a deeper relationship with them. And, if I go to the pet stores, all of the animals will like run up to me, and the owners are like, oh, they never do this. And I'm like, it's okay. It's normal for me, and I'm like, can I pet them? So I just wanted to bring it to the world because it's something that's always been a part of me.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, and it's easy to see because your books are so dead on, and you have such a great connection with animals. So I'm not surprised that you were drawn to their energy and also, relaying that information in the books that you have, so the rest of us can look at it that maybe aren't as connected to, different animals and go, gosh, okay, when I see an owl, now I know what that's all about. I've got this information.
Look all around you.
Mm-hmm. And it gives you just kind of an understanding with the messages that they bring.
Good. I'm glad that it's working that way and that it's clear, because I try to write very clear and to be like, when people read my books, I want them to feel like I'm sitting here having a conversation with them. So I try to write in a very clear, straightforward way. So thank you for letting me know that worked.
Of course. So, so in your books, both your books, both Animal Frequency and Llewellyn's little book of spirit animals, you have exercises. So,
yes.
For people to do. So how are these different in both books?
Okay, so in Animal Frequency, I have an imagined section at the end of the second page for each animal that is me walking you through a creative visualization exercise to help you connect to that animal. It's kind of like how I would do it, but by writing it out and letting the reader read it, my hopes were that, this is an example that would show them how to do it. So I have that at the end of every section, whereas in the little book there wasn't room for those for every animal. Now, there are some in there, but there's not, maybe 10, I think, visualization exercises. So I don't, you get more in Animal Frequency with those imagine exercises. But in the little book, I also give you tips, and there's visualizations, and there's some of the imagine ones. In Animal Frequency, I go more in depth into about the animal, and more in depth to the meanings. I tried to give a good synopsis of what a meaning is, but you'll get more in the bigger book. So there's exercises in both of them. It's just more in Animal Frequency.
Okay. Well, and Llewellyn's little book of spirit animals is really meant to be kind of like that pocket guide that you take with you.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's portable, very portable. You have to have a big backpack for Animal Frequency.
Yeah, you sure do.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people are wondering, gosh, does my spirit animal choose me or do I choose it? And do they change?
So they always choose you because they're the ones with the message. So if you say, okay, for example, people love wolves, okay, and they love to say the wolf is my totem animal. But is it really? Okay, is it just because you like a wolf, or is it just, or is it, okay, back up, Melissa. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to say, this is my totem animal because you feel attracted to that totem animal. But a lot of times the totem animal you think is supposed to be your lifetime guide may not be the one that you like the best because they choose you, you don't choose them. They do change, and the way that I feel about this is that, okay, so you have a group or you're going to have one primary. So, like, for me, it's a horse. Horses have always been, like, connected to me ever since I was a tiny little girl. So even though when I didn't have an actual horse, in my life, I would still get messages from horse. But I also have, like, the hawk comes by with a message. So, and I might have an earthworm give me a message, So they come and go depending on the situations that you're going through in your life and the kind of help that you need. So, you'll have some that are with you for life and some that come and go. But they always choose you. You don't get to choose them because they're from the spirit realm and they're divine, and we are too, but they choose you when they have the message.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like, you can't really say, this is the message I want, because they're the ones with the messages. We're the recipients.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I get it. And it makes sense, And so with the animals that are bringing us these messages, it could be different animals all the time, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so what if, because I'm looking in your book and I see a dragon.
Yeah.
And so
I know what you're going to ask me.
Oh, I bet you do. So, why did you include some, mythical animals in your books?
So everybody keeps saying this because everybody's like, oh, these are not even real animals. Why are they in there? Okay, so think about a dragon for a second. They're not real animals, but how popular are they in our culture? Okay, and in cultures all around the world. Same thing with the unicorn. These are animals that are mythical, but they're mythical for, like, forever. I mean, you can go back in history and find dragons and unicorns. And okay, so because these are animals, even though they're mythical, they can still have a message for you. So what would be the message of a dragon if you suddenly start seeing dragons on TV and dragons in books and in a magazine, or then you see an article about a dragon, and then, okay, so this dragon is popping up all over the place. Well, even though it's mythical, there can still be a message for that. So I tried connecting to the frequency of the animals, the mythical animals, and I included them because they too have something to say. Even though they may not be real, there are messages that can be delivered to you from these animals. So, like a dragon, is that dragon telling you maybe you need to stop hoarding things so much? Because, that's what dragons do. They hoard their gold, and there could be a variety of messages that are important to what you're going through. But, yeah, a lot of people have asked me, that doesn't make sense. They're not real. Well, they may not be real, but they may have a very clear message for you, that is important.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. And it's interesting because when we look at, like, even dragons, Pegasus, unicorns, you even have the Loch Ness Monster in here,
Yeah.
When people are like attracted to these kind of things, and it's going, they want to know what the message is that these mythical animals bring, And
another reason that I included them is because if I got a message for them, like, I'm just like everybody else, I'll go look stuff up, and I'm very much the researcher to find information about everything, and I couldn't find a lot about mythical animals, and, since I connected to them myself, I'm like, well, why not include them? I don't see them, all in other books, so, that makes my book a little bit different, too. But I think they're just as important for the messages that they can bring to you in times of need,
Mm-hmm. Get that, because it's all about getting information that just helps us move forward.
Right.
So how did you come up with the meaning and messages for these animals? Was that something that was channeled, or how'd that come into being?
So it's twofold. So what I did is I did mega research on the animals and their habitat, their, what they like to eat. I did a lot of research on each animal the real animals, and I did research on the mythical animals too, because what is the mythology behind this animal? Why did people start thinking about this animal, in history? So I did all that to have my information about each animal correct, because I didn't want to say, a bear loves blueberries when bears hate blueberries, I mean, I wanted it to be factual, for the information about each animal. But then what I did is I connected through animal frequency to the energy of that animal, and I asked the animal, what do you want people to know about you? And then all the rest of that is intuitive. All the messages and the meanings and, what do the visualizations, all of that is I did intuitively. So it was two-part. It was the research to make sure I had the animals correct after I picked out the animals. And picking out the animals was fun because it's like I picked out animals, and then it was fun writing that book because you wouldn't believe how many animals showed up at my farm. And it was animals you didn't expect. I had a gator in my canal behind us, which I've never seen a gator in that canal before. And he stayed there for 2 weeks. And I finally said, you have to leave, or I have to call somebody to take you out of here, because I have 2 miniature horses, and I was scared to death he was going to climb the fence and try to get them. I'm like, go away. And he wouldn't go. And anyway, finally he left. But it was, and then I had the rats show up, which you never want rats at a farm. And then I had snakes. Every snake under the sun was showing up, and birds galore. So, and everybody wanted their input into, the book. And it was fun, but it was strange too. It was interesting. And then once I had the list of animals, I had to send that to Llewellyn, and then I had 500 animals to start with, so we had to start with, it's like, that's too many, so we had to make the list of animals fit into the space allotted for the book. So that's how I picked them up.
Well, and when you went, because I'm sure, 500's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, can you imagine? It took me enough time to write that. Can you imagine if I had 500?
and then having that, and then kind of paring that down, was that kind of an intuitive process for you? Going, gosh, we really need to have this animal in here, and this one, it could be in another edition sometime down the road or something.
Yeah, well, I thought about that, and finally I was just like, okay, I just got to give it to you guys. I had to let that go and let Llewellyn cut the list down and say, okay, these are the ones we want to include, because I would have liked to have more, but yeah. I do understand the publishing end of it, because I used to own a publishing company, and I am an author, and I know the way the business runs. And, when you're selling a book, you've got to make sure that book is within a certain parameter so that it stays within a certain price point and everything else. So at that point, I was just like, I don't know who to choose. Here's my list. Who do you guys want? So that's how we did it.
Yeah, that's how you had that all together.
Yeah, well, it was fair to me and fair to the animals, too. So,
yeah, because I could see it would be easy to get attached to some of them, going, gosh, we really need to have it in here.
Well, and one thing that I did do, though, is in the little book, I added 50 more wild animals in the little book than are in Animal Frequency. So you get more animals in the little book, but you get more information about each animal in Animal Frequency. So there are some extras in here.
It's good to have both, for sure. Because I've been looking at different ones as I'm along my journey, and it's like, wonder what this message is all about.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes the ones, you may think that your spirit animal or your energy animal is, so let's go back to the wolf. So it's the wolf, but then it's actuality, it might be an ant or an earthworm, and you might not like your spirit animal. You might be like, I don't want an ant to be my spirit animal, but the ant has messages for you, like maybe you need to be, buckle down and be a harder worker, put more focus into what you're doing, be more of a team player so that you can get the job done in a faster, more productive way. So they always do have messages for you, even though you may not like the animal that shows up, That's why I always try to look at what the message is going to be, what is the message, and why is it showing up right now? What am I doing in my life that this ant is like on me, or they keep popping up here and there and wherever. So you always have to think about what the message is.
And how that relates to what's going on in your daily life and whatever situations are going on. Because a lot of times people have questions. They're like, gosh, how am I going to handle this situation with my boss or my spouse or my kids?
Mm-hmm.
There's something going on, and these animals do bring us wisdom that kind of it really gives us the opportunity to kind of shift perspectives.
True. So if a wolverine shows up and you've been acting like a mouse, that wolverine is telling you need to buckle up and, show a little bit more ferociousness here in the situation. So, it's always apply. Whatever the message is always something that is going to apply to your life and what you're going through right now. At least that's what I've always found to be.
Yeah, the journey there. Do you think you're going to make more of these type of books, these animal reference books?
I don't know about the animal ones, but the last book I'm working on now is a reference book. I can't go into a lot of detail about it yet, but it is a reference book. So, yes, would be my answer.
That's very exciting.
It is.
That's good stuff to know. My goodness. So we've got that kind of in the wings, and we'll be listening about that one, and seeing how that all comes together. So, did you ever come across like a spirit animal that you were like, I don't like you so much?
Yeah, well, like what I was saying. Okay, so my nickname is Lizard. My dad nicknamed me Lizard when I was a little girl because he pulled tobacco and we had a tobacco farm, and I was little, like a couple years old, and I would sit under the eaves of the barn and play in the dirt, and I would catch all the lizards and put them in a box and play with the lizards all day, and then at the end of the day I would let them go. So he nicknamed me Lizard. So one day I was, I was going out of the neighborhood, and there was a lizard on me in the car, and I'm like, what the heck? So I jump out of the car and get off me. This lizard ran around me 3 times, around my shoulders, over my back, and I would turn and see him in my window of the car, and I kept trying to get him off of me. I'm standing on the side of the road, twisting my shirt around, trying to catch this lizard. Finally, he jumps off of me, and then he ran away. So I'm thinking, okay, the message that I'm getting has to apply to lizard, right? Well, later that afternoon, I got swarmed with ants, and the lizard and ants kind of go together. And when I looked up both of them in animal frequency, because channeling that information and it being intuitive, I don't always remember everything I wrote about all those animals. Mm-hmm. So I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, lizards eat ants, and ants tell you need to work harder. And this lizard wouldn't get off of me, so I need to work harder to finish what I'm doing. So that was the message to me, and I was close to finishing a book at that time, and it was just, you need to buckle down and you need to focus. So they can come in pairs, too, or you may see more than one that has a different message but applicable to the same situation.
Well, and so, what are some of the benefits, then, for us to connect with spirit animals?
The main one is to receive divine messages from them because they always are going to tell you something that is going to be connected to you at a spiritual basis, and it'll help you with your situations, but there's always the divine connection there. They help you with decisions that you need to make. They can help get you motivated. They can help get you out of being down in the dumps or depressed. They can make you see things clearly. It's just really no limit to the helpfulness that they can give you if you just take the time to listen and to pay attention to those messages. It's really easy to ignore them, to say, oh, it's just a bird. Well, that bird may have something important to tell you. So if you're aware and you notice, then you're more open to receiving their messages than if you're closed off and limiting yourself and saying, animals can't have messages. They most certainly do, and they can be very profound messages at times, too.
Well, and it's interesting how, the messages we get sometimes can be totally unexpected, what we're kind of thinking we need at that moment.
Right. Like you may think you need the ferociousness of the Wolverine when actually you need to be, meek and withdrawn like a mouse, or hiding like a mouse, or in other words, stay out of it. Instead of getting in the middle of the fray, stay out of it and back off a little bit. So, it's just whatever, the message can be wide and very varied.
Okay. And, well, what if someone says, gosh, I don't know how to connect with the spirit animals? I got your book and I've got the information, but I don't even know how to even start to connect with them. What advice would you offer them?
So, in animal frequency, in the beginning of it, there's a very detailed, exercise explaining how to do it. It's in the Little Book of Spirit Animals, too. But my main advice would be to stop trying to force it. You can't force the connection, and a lot of times you can block yourself if you're trying too hard. So it's better just to, relax, look at the animal, if it appears to you, or think about the animal if you keep seeing it everywhere, because an elephant may not be in your backyard, so you want to make sure that you just think about the animal and you feel the energy of that animal. What does that animal feel like? Is it calm, or is it, more energetic? And how can I connect to you? And then relax and ask that animal to come to you. That's the basis of animal frequency. It's a sharing of energies, a sharing of knowledge, and a sharing of more divine information. And it really it's just to try to allow them to speak to you and to be open to hearing what they have to say.
Well, and so let's say someone is doing this process and they're, connecting with the animals and going, gosh, the only thing I feel like I'm doing is just using my imagination. I don't really feel like I don't know if this is a real connection. What advice would you give them? Well,
a lot of it is creative visualization. You have to see that animal in your mind's eye, When they appear to you, like when that hawk comes and sets on the edge of my post here and stares at me, there's no doubt that I'm just sitting there going, okay, what is it? And what I always do is I ask them, what is it? What are you trying to say? What's going on? And then I wait, and then you really have to trust the first thing you see, hear, or that flashes in your mind's eye. Because that's how they communicate. They're not going to go, oh, hi, Melissa, here I am today to tell you, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. They can't do that. But they can send you images and messages and words. And I've seen before, just words flash in my mind's eye, and it makes sense to what I'm going through right now. And you just really have to pay attention to that. To me, it's. I don't think it's too difficult if you're open to it. If you're trying to prove that it doesn't work and that, it's just a bird or whatever, then you're going to have a hard time. So my advice is just to try to listen with not just your ears, but in your mind's eye and with your heart, because there's really a heart connection with animal frequency.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think they get a little confused. Or like, well, if I connect, what does that look like? So I'm so glad that you were able to share that with us and explain a little bit more.
Well, and it's a feeling, too. It's a real, okay, I'll give you an example real quick. So one of my dogs years and years ago went missing. And him and the other dog, it was a male and female Dalmatians. And they took off, and they ran the woods for 2 weeks. I didn't think that dog was ever coming back. And first the female showed back up, but Domino never did come back. And I thought, well, he probably got hit by a car or something happened. Well, then one day he showed up. He was skin and bones, had run himself ragged, but he showed up. And I grabbed the dog, and I hugged him around the neck, and I was just, that was such an extreme connection with the animal frequency, and it just felt like his heart, just the energy arced from his heart to my heart, almost like a physical thing. And I'll never, ever forget that. And connecting to your spirit animals and your animal totems and your energy animals, they're all the same thing. But connecting is feeling that type of a connection with them, where you're merging your energy with theirs and you're receiving the messages. And when you're at that level of the divine, then it's almost like psychics who intuitively know something. It's an intuitive knowing. You just know the answer. It's just like you feel it, you know it, and there's no doubt. So that's how it works for me.
Yeah, and it's a really good way of explaining just how that connection is, so people go, oh, okay, I get it now. That's how it's supposed to look.
Because I hope I'm being clear.
Oh, you are, and it's just like when I first started my spiritual path, I'm like, well, am I imagining this? Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. Am I losing my mind? Do I need to have a room?
Right. No, it's the same way with anything that's intuitive in nature. You're going to second guess it because you may not feel comfortable in it yet. I know with my intuition, I fought it for years because I didn't want to know, except the animal part. It's like I was always connected to them because I did want to know with them, but to the other intuition, it's like, go away. So it's just being clear within yourself first, I think.
Yeah, having that clarity and that openness. And just kind of, and another thing, too, I've heard a lot, and maybe you can weigh in on this, too. A lot of times people feel like, gosh, I really have to trust what it is that I get.
Right, you do. And I'm the world's worst when it comes to second-guessing myself because I'll be like, I always want to make sure before I say something is intuition or paranormal or whatever in nature that I've already ruled out anything that's, realistic or, it's not something happening. It's my air conditioner turned on. You know what I mean? There's got to be a logical explanation for it before I say that it's, something intuitive. And with the animals, it took me a little bit, when I was younger and everything, it took me a little bit to realize, they're talking to me because animals aren't supposed to talk. But they do talk, but it's with pictures, and it's through energy, and it's through your energy connection with them. And once you realize that that's the only way they can communicate with you, then if you try to meet them on their ground, then you'll have a better communication than if you try to overanalyze it and say, they can't talk. So does that make sense? You have to go to their level because they can't come to yours. They don't have vocal cords to speak. So you have to learn how to communicate in their language, not our own.
Well, that's probably a good thing because when my dog was alive, if he could speak, he would have a lot to say, and most of it would have had to deal with what I was putting in his dish. So, I'm like, I'm not eating that.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you lost him recently. I saw that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it was. They're only here with us for a short period of time, but that we can still connect with them even when they're on the other side.
That's very true. I lost my dog this past year too, and he actually blocked me from knowing because I am intuitive, and he blocked me from knowing that anything was wrong with him. And up until this point, every time something had happened, because he had health problems his whole life, and I was always able to fix him. And I think he knew this was something I couldn't fix, and he just blocked it. So when I found out that he was filled up with cancer, I was blindsided because I didn't know about it because he was blocking it from me. But since he's passed, I get messages from him through the clouds, through, other means, every day, every single day. And I feel him around me every single day. And that's another thing too. You look to the clouds because a lot of times it's easy for animals who have passed to give you messages in the clouds and than it is any other way. So.
Well, if it's Maxwell, he's drawing a picture of a chicken because he loves chicken.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, I think it's good for people to know that they can make these connections when our beloved pets move to the other side. It's not an end game, and they may even show up again later.
That's true. I have one of my horses passed away, and I have her in my house. She's a Chihuahua now. and that's a really long, drawn-out story, but, they can come back that way. I was going to make a point, I forgot what it was. About your pets being spirit animals. I think that your pets can be your spirit animals to an extent. There's other beliefs that they can't be because they're not a wild animal. But I think that when you get an animal that is connected to you in the way that Bandit was connected to me, and your dog was connected to you, that they have messages from the divine that they can give to us. And when a pet is a spirit animal or an energy animal to you because they just seem different than every other pet you've ever had. There's more of a deeper connection, and when you feel the loss, and when they go, the loss is deeper, I've had other animals in the past that, I appreciated them in my life and everything, but there was a connection with them, but not like a deep, deep connection like you occasionally find with animals that I feel are more spirit animals for you and come to be with you and, for whatever length of time they can be with you.
Well, and so when animals do cross over and they are the spirit animals, the ones we have these deep connections with, are they with us all the time, or are they just with us for a period of time and then they reincarnate? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, okay, so I think that varies because I think it depends on the animal. The horse that I had that passed away, Klosky, when I first met her, I saw an image of me and her in a past life from back in medieval times. So I know she's been with me, many, many times. And then when she was about to pass, she gave me pictures of this little dog. And I knew that that's how she was going to come back to me, because she told me, she showed it to me before she passed away. Whereas other animals like Bandit, I know he's been with me for that one period of time, and I know he's not coming back as reincarnated, but that he's going to be a spirit animal with me for the rest of my life. So it's just, I think you have a spiritual knowing or an intuitive knowing with each individual animal, just by the way things happen,
Yeah, and how that connection is. And, it's interesting. And they always give us little telltale signs when they've shown up, just like your horse, who's now the Chihuahua. They give us these telltale signs like, hey, I'm here for you. I'm back.
Yeah, exactly. Because when she came back, I was sitting in Arby's with my kids, and I made my kids just take their food and go because I'm like, I have to go to that pet store over there right this second. And I got over there, and then I was looking for the little dog, and I'm like, because I knew what she looked like, and I found her. And I'm like, I need to see that little dog. And I ended up buying her, and my husband wouldn't answer his phone, so I just bought her anyway. And So anyway, I bought her, and when I got her to the barn, oh, my gosh, she moved just like a Frisian. She was just prancing around just like a horse was, and it was amazing the way she acted. And then I showed her to the other horses in the barn, and the horses she was best friends with when she was a horse, she almost crawled up her face, was licking her in the face and everything, and I'm like, there's no doubt that this is Klosky, yeah. So it was very cool.
Get to see our little buddies again.
Yeah, so I named her Klosky and spelled it different.
Well, and so, I'm kind of thinking, so let's say someone's having trouble connecting to their spirit animal or recognizing it. What advice would you give them?
Just to, take a step back, breathe deep, relax, and trust in what you're getting and the messages that you're receiving, and to see how those apply to your life.
Mm-hmm. Is it just because then we're trying too hard, probably, that
a lot of times, yes. Yeah, because it's easy to doubt yourself. I mean, with anything that's intuitive in nature, it's easy to doubt yourself. So just know that, they're not going to tell you something that's not going to be beneficial to you. So even though if the message may not make exact sense, then try looking at it from a different perspective and seeing, okay, well, how could this message fit in with what I'm going through right now?
Yeah, what's going on. Well, that's such fabulous advice. And, I think for a lot of people, as we look at, making these connections, these deeper connections with our spirit animals, it also helps us to have a little bit of a deeper knowing and connections with the animals we have here on this plane.
True. That's true. Because it can help you understand them better.
Yeah. Kind of know it's like, hey, this one might be a little buddy later on. So, just kind of have a little bit openness, a little bit more of an openness and understanding.
Right. I agree.
Well, any last thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Thank you for reading my books. I really appreciate it. And, I'm always open to receiving emails. You can email me at media@melissa-a.com. I also have, the Animal Frequency Oracle cards on my website for sale. So, those I published myself. They're not through Llewellyn. But they're a good addition to have with the little book and with Animal Frequency. And really just, always trust in yourself first. Trust in your intuition. Believe in yourself. And then listen. And whatever you hear, whatever you feel, whatever you see, that that's part of a message or the message that the animals are trying to connect with you and to give to you. And, take a little time, I know some people aren't animal people, they like to know about animal totems, but they may not want to go get their hands dirty, messing with animals or, but sometimes it's really fun to do that. Sometimes it's fun just to go and even if you just sit and watch the animal, go to a petting zoo and see what happens. You might be amazed that as you're sitting there watching, some animal just walks right up to you and, just to say hello or, It's amazing what animals can do if you're open to listening to their messages and to noticing that they're around you. So just, I hope you have fun with the animals.
It really is about that openness and that willingness to kind of investigate a little bit more. And it's, it's so much fun doing it.
It is.
Ooh, wonder what this one's going to have a message for me.
Right, exactly. And you never know when they're going to show up. It's like, things like a fog jumps out of you from nowhere. It's like, where did you even come from? Especially if I've had them land on my face, on my head, and I'm just like, where did you even come from? But then I have to think about, okay, so maybe I need to be a little more sticky in the things that I'm doing or pay a little bit more attention to details, and make my details stick, when it comes to work or something. Because that's what they do. Frogs just stick to you, especially the little tree frogs. So.
Well, they're definitely attracted to you for sure, and your book has so much wonderful information, and for our listeners, you definitely want to pick it up. Llewellyn's Little Book of Spirit Animals, and I would advise kind of checking out Hedgehog, the little message the hedgehog has, and we'll kind of leave it at that. I found that to be lots of fun. And so, and one more time, what's your website again, Melissa?
It's Melissa. It's MELISSA, A for Alvarez, .com.
.com. Okay, well, really easy, really super easy to get to and navigate around. Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me on the show. I always love coming on here and talking to you.
We always have more fun than we should, right?
I know, right? We could probably talk for 2 hours,
Easily, it's so easy to chat with you. You know so much about this. Oh, and one more question. So if someone wants help with their spirit animals, do you do private sessions?
Right now I'm not, simply because I am bombarded trying to get this last book I may open. I've had my readings closed for a while now just because I've been under deadline. I may open them back up, but I'm not 100% sure yet. But if people have questions, if I have the time, I don't mind, writing you a brief email back and trying to answer a question. But as far as a specific reading on, a specific animal or something, I'm not really doing that right now. But But if you do have a question, email me, media@melissa-a.com, and I'll see if I can answer you.
Well, and we'll keep track of when it does open up so that for those that are interested in booking a session with you, they can. So we'll stay in touch on that one. So
okay, yeah, I'm actually combining all of my sites because I used to do readings on apsychichaven.com, but I'm putting everything onto melissa-a.com just because it's easier to manage. Updating one site is much easier than updating 5, so.
For sure. For sure. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you, Marianne. I really appreciate you having me as a guest.
Well, thank you, Melissa. It's always so much fun to have you on the show. I'm sure we'll be connecting again in the near future. If you're looking for more information on her books, you want to visit her website, melissa-a.com, and we'll have the link right here as well. We're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.